All right, everyone. So this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the more fun games, of the slate. Okay, so this is a 425 game, so this isn't going to be in the 1 o'clock madness, but it's the Cowboys and the Bears, and I'm going to tell you, this game is going to have big consequences for both of these teams, and I'm going to break that down, and then I'm going to go through kind of why I think the argument would be for each team to cover the spread that we have here. So for the Cowboys, let's break it down for them. They find a way to get a win against the New York Giants, and that game is big because whatever team won that, as we mentioned, it puts them back on track a little bit. Now the Giants are going to have to dig themselves out of a major hole for them to, do anything this season. But because the Cowboys won, they're 1-1, and if you win here, you're back over 500. You're at 2-1, and the sky is really the limit for your team from that point. This is a team without Micah, but winning this game, this is really a game. If you're a good team, you should go ahead and win. On the Bears front, look, the Bears, they're obviously in a tough division, but we look now, and I know they already lost once to the Vikings. I get it, but the Vikings, they lost JJ McCarthy, and whether they're better with him or without him, that's just not a team. I think that's a team that's going to struggle throughout this year. And you really think the Bears outplayed them all but that one quarter. Granted, that was a devastating quarter. So if you can figure out a way to beat this Cowboys team and you're at home, you're not sitting pretty, but you're sitting at 1-2. And that 1-2 is a lot different than 0-3. I mean, 0-3, you're basically saying, look, the season's over, right? And much like I said, the Cowboys really should win this game. If the Bears are a team that's going to make any noise, they really, should be beating the Dallas Cowboys because the Cowboys we've seen defensively that they've had their struggles, and so the Bears should be able to take advantage of that. So now we're going to go through and go through the odds here and why each team can cover. So starting with the Cowboys, they're plus 1.5. Total for the game is 49.5 and plus 100 on the money line. So I just want to say one thing to start here. This is a different season than we've seen before with the Dallas Cowboys. So often you get the Dallas Cowboys people, hey, title contenders, and then you have the playoff kind of, them coming up short. And one of the things I always used to see when I was watching the Cowboys is there was always this level of tenseness with the Cowboys, right? Like there was just this enormous amount of pressure on Dak and company to go out there and get a win. And through the first two games, I will say I have not seen any of that tenseness. I have looked at Dak Prescott in the first two games against the Eagles and the New York Giants, and this is a guy who was throwing the ball all over the place. This is a guy that looks like he's playing about as carefree football as we've ever seen. And some of these passes he's making are dangerous, right? They're especially in that game against the Eagles. I mean, there was a few that were popped up and almost picked. He threw a pick against the Giants. Like this is something that he's doing, and it might sound like I'm saying something negative. It's a positive to me. I think this is one of the first seasons I've looked at Dak Prescott and I've said, not only is this guy the leader of this team because he's the quarterback, right? And Dak always says the right things. But he just appears to me to be as confident as ever and to kind of be a guy that's like, you know what? We're going to go out there and win a damn football game on the offensive end. I got CD Lamb. I got George Pickens. Okay. I like my offensive line. I got a running game that's working pretty well. Let's just go out and throw this ball all over the field. And even against the Giants, I mean, when the Giants come down and score, right, and you're catching that, and Neighbors catches that football deep, and you're watching that, and you have X amount of time for them to do what they did then to go on to win that football game, I think tells you a lot about what this Cowboys team is made of. And this is not a team, all right, that has given up on the year by any means. And I know this is a long-winded way of saying that I would not want to be seeing the Dallas Cowboys. I just think as bad as people have talked about their defense, I just think this is a team that is right now, their mindset is we could make some noise this year. We can make the playoffs. They're not sitting there going, oh man, you know, we traded away Micah Parsons. They're in it to win it. The flip side, look, the kind of vibe on the Bears is just down. All right. If you could have two opposite vibes, this would be it. The Bears had a lot of hype coming into this year. You bring in Ben Johnson, you obviously have Caleb Williams, and none of that has worked out to this point, especially after week one. If they had won week one, nobody would be as down in the Bears as they are. Okay, wow, you got beat by the Lions bad. Congrats, right? Nobody would care about that. It's that first loss that kind of blended in to the second one. And so when I'm looking at this Cowboys team, man, I just think in the vibes department, Cowboys get the edge. And I think Dak and his receivers, that is the best weapon on the field, right? The Caleb Williams DJ Moore connection is nowhere near that. The Bears defense isn't going to be good enough to stop that. And as much crap as that Cowboys defense gets, I just want to point out one thing. Everyone talks about how high scoring that Giants Cowboys game was. Watching that, and I watched every snap of that football game. I didn't think that that was like, oh, there was no effort on defense or the defenses are just so bad. I thought that was just great offense. A few of those passes, and I understand, okay, you could have certain players better positioned, but some of those balls Russell Wilson threw were just in the perfect spots. And I bring this up because even in game one, when it was Giants Commanders, if you watch the all 22, you'll see that Neighbors was getting open on them too. They just were unable to kind of get the Russell Wilson was unable to get him the ball. And against Dallas, he just said, you know what, I'm just putting this thing up, right? And let's just hope it works. That's kind of how he was playing it. So it's not that I think Dallas is going to have some great defense. I don't think they have some great defense, but we saw what that defense can do in the second half against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think when they have to lock in, when they have to get those stops, I think they'll be able to do it. And if Caleb Williams, if he can't make kind of those passes that Russell Wilson made, where you just put him in that perfect spot deep, I think it's going to be a long day for the Bears. So that's my argument for the Bear or for the Cowboys. The flip side of this, look, the Bears need this win. I mean, the Cowboys, it would be nice for them to get this win. Go to 2-1. That's helpful, especially when they have a tougher schedule. The Bears, look, you need this win. If you go to 0-3, you're done. That's it. Your season is effectively over, and there's no chance of you making the playoffs. Especially because even if the Vikings, let's take them down a notch in the division. um, Packers about as good as anybody. The Lions, when they're on, they are on. Okay, we've already seen it. So 0-3, you might as well count yourself out. You are done. And so can the Bears and Caleb Williams, we know what type of talent he is. DJ Moore, we know what type of talent he is. We saw against the Vikings, for three or so quarters that, hey, this team, as long as they don't, kind of be their own worst enemy, they can be okay, right? They could be good. So I really would like to see that from the Bears here. And to me, that's their path, right? Offense takes advantage of the weakness of Dallas defensively, find a way to win this game. This is basically a pick 'em, and they're at home. So now let's get to who I think is going to win and what I'll be placing. And I'm going to be on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to be on I might even go money line. I usually don't do this, but I might go money line. Otherwise, I'll be on the +1.5 spread. I just am I am shocked about two things for the Dallas Cowboys. First off, I'm shocked by the locker room. This feels like a tight knit team. It really does. This feels like a team that wants to go out there and compete and that's not buying into the outside noise. Week one, you just traded Micah. Everybody was kind of down and out on you. Nobody was giving you a chance. And they went out there and they battled for 4 quarters. And if it wasn't for some CeeDee Lamb drops, they're a team that ends up winning that game. Okay. And what do? They come into week two against a Giants team that now people are saying you should be able to take care of them. And it's this back and forth battle. And they find a way to pull kind of a rabbit out of the hat and get a win, despite the kind of great plays by Russell Wilson. And now you're sitting there at 1-1, despite all the negative media attention, and you have a chance to beat a Bears team that is struggling. I think they can go out there and do it. And if you look at this division, look, the Eagles are 2-0. Dallas just 2 weeks ago was able to keep it close and probably should have beat the Eagles. You look at the Commanders aren't scaring anybody right now. And, I don't say that to be mean, but the Commanders are just not a team that I'm all that scared of because even against the Giants in that second half, that game felt like it should have been 50-6 and it ended up 22-6 with it being 14-6 for most of the game. Now with Jaden Daniels dealing with some injuries, can the Cowboys end up being the second best team in the NFC East? Maybe, right? I don't think that's out of the question. And if the Eagles really kind of can't get out of the funk they're in terms of just not playing really crisp, good football, even though they're getting wins, and we kind of see the same thing we saw a couple years ago where they were winning a lot of these close games, not looking that good, and then they just kind of fall apart. Look, the Cowboys are right in it. And I think right now, when you see the guy you're paying $60 million a year to in Dak Prescott, and I think he has taken the leadership role over completely. He's always said the right things, but now I just see it. There's a different vibe to him when he's out there on the field. There's just something going on with him that is so impressive to watch. And as a Cowboys fan, right? If you are a Cowboys fan out there, you have to be excited about that. You just have to be. You have to love every second of what you're seeing from Dak so far because he just seems to really be embracing. I'm the $60, $60 million quarterback on this team. It's time for me to start playing like it, and he's just unleashing it. He's not scared. He's taking risks, and for a team that doesn't have a great defense, that's what you're going to need to do all year. So, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.